When you hire a carer, you're placing an almost unbelievable amount of trust in a stranger. You invite them into your home and entrust them with the absolute well-being of the people you love most. Their uniform is supposed to mean safety, compassion, and professionalism. But what happens when the person wearing that uniform isn't a protector, but a predator? This is the story of Richard Forsyth, a man who twisted his position of trust into a weapon, turning a place of care into his own personal hunting ground. In the small towns of Shropshire, England, community care workers are a lifeline. They travel from house to house, giving elderly and vulnerable people the support they need to stay independent. It's a job that demands a deep sense of empathy and responsibility. And working within this network was 32-year-old Richard Forsyth. To the outside world, he was just another carer doing his job. But behind the scenes, a much darker picture was emerging. The job often required working in pairs, inside private, isolated homes, which created a uniquely vulnerable environment. For Forsyth's female colleagues, this environment became a source of constant, escalating fear. As a prosecutor later told a jury, the women who worked with Forsyth all dreaded having to do shifts with him. They were terrified of what he might do, not just to them, but to the vulnerable clients they were there to help. It started with what was described as overly familiar and sexually forward behavior. Forsyth built a reputation for being brazen, for pushing boundaries in a way that left his colleagues feeling sick with discomfort. He'd make inappropriate sexual remarks and advances, often right in front of the clients. This put the women in an impossible position. How could they complain without upsetting a vulnerable person? But if they stayed silent, his behavior just got worse. He was an intimidating, physically imposing figure, and his victims were scared of what would happen if they reported him. This calculated creation of a hostile and threatening workplace was the first step in his campaign of terror. Despite his threats and intimidation, Forsyth's victims eventually came forward. When questioned by police, he denied everything. He claimed the women were all lying, that they were conspiring against him for reasons he couldn't imagine. He stuck to this story through 2 separate trials at Shrewsbury Crown Court, forcing his victims to relive every terrifying moment on the witness stand. In the first trial, a jury found him guilty of 6 counts of sexual assault against 3 women, but they were deadlocked on 12 other charges, including rape and attempted rape. But the prosecution wasn't done. They pursued a second trial, and this time the jury was convinced. Richard Forsyth was found guilty of a horrific string of crimes, including rape, attempted rape, and assault by penetration. At his sentencing in September 2021, Judge Peter Barry did not mince words. He called Forsyth's case an extraordinary tale of self-centeredness and insensitivity. Looking directly at Forsyth, the judge said, "You were in a settled relationship with a pregnant woman, and it's quite clear that you conducted yourself as a carer in a way that shows no understanding, respect, or kindness. You behaved in such a brazen and sexual way." The judge made it clear he saw the depth of Forsyth's betrayal. He told him, "The women felt completely disrespected. Their protests were ignored, and you carried on regardless because of your own sexual appetite." He pointed out that Forsyth had shown zero remorse, clinging to his denials even after the first conviction. For his campaign of terror, Richard Forsyth was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Crucially, the judge also put a sexual harm prevention order in place. This order means Forsyth is banned from ever again working or volunteering in any role where he would be unsupervised with women, a measure to make sure he can never use a position of trust to hurt people again. It was the incredible courage of Forsyth's victims who faced him in court that finally put him behind bars. Their stories expose the hidden dangers that can lurk even in professions that are supposed to be built on trust. If you want to see more deep dives into complex cases like this one, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. Your support helps us keep telling these important stories. The case of Richard Forsyth is a chilling reminder that a predator can wear any uniform. He took advantage of the trust and isolation built into the care sector to act without fear, believing he could intimidate his victims into silence. The 8-year sentence and the prevention order offer some justice, but they can't undo the damage he caused. His victims lost their sense of safety, their ability to trust, and in some cases, their careers. Their experience shines a harsh light on a critical weakness in the care industry: the need for better protection, not just for clients, but for the staff themselves. But more than anything, it highlights the immense bravery it takes to speak out against a workplace predator, especially when he's a colleague. The final word belongs to the women Forsyth targeted. Their courage in the face of his denials is what brought a hunter to justice.